Recently, I traveled over 150 miles across the Netherlands for 3 days on my bike to explore firsthand the urbanism, beauty and bike lanes of the country. The Netherlands is dense and strictly against wild camping, with fines imposed, but today I'm going to show you that bikepacking and wild camping in the world's biking capital is possible and give you all the information you need for your own trips in the Netherlands on a budget, from as little as €5 per day. This video took a lot of effort, so it would mean a lot if you could subscribe, as over 99% of you aren't subscribed, and support me on Patreon, where all money goes directly to my university fund, and you get early access to videos and more. Firstly, equipment. Choosing the right bike is not much of an issue in the Netherlands, as there is high quality infrastructure everywhere, and the lack of hills means almost any bike is suitable. I used my cheap mountain bike as it was the only one I had, and it gave me mental security knowing I could leave it in a dense city to explore and not have it stolen, something I would be concerned by with a high-end bike. For shorter trips, a backpack is suitable as it allows you to quickly jump off your bike and go into shops and cities without your valuables being stolen. However, I would strongly recommend bikepacking bags or panniers for trips over a couple of days, as carrying a backpack all day can cause shoulder issues and general uncomfortableness. For wild camping, I recommend a small, nature-covered one-person tent or a hammock for maximum stealth. But bring a sleeping mat for comfort. Many people get persuaded by YouTubers and ads into buying expensive gear that adds up to thousands of dollars, but this really isn't necessary. Use Facebook Marketplace to get the best deals. Here are some examples of suitable tents, hammocks, and other equipment that I would recommend, and you should also go to the bike touring subreddit for great advice and example setups that will suit you personally. I would also advise not to overpack, as you can always purchase things that you find yourself needing along the way rather than hauling extra weight for no reason. This is especially important in mountainous areas. Next, finding a place to wild camp. If your budget allows, paid camping or hostels in the Netherlands are a great option, but wild camping allows traveling pretty much for free, so it's what I chose. The Netherlands is one of the densest countries, but wild camping spots do exist. My strategy was to look for forested areas on Google Satellite View, away from houses, and make sure to check there are no big fences on Street View, as they will be hard to carry your bike over. As long as you pick a secluded spot away from paths and roads, there are plenty of options, but you still need to set up camp at sunset and leave not long after sunrise to be safe. Here are some examples of where I chose to camp on my trip, and you can see I didn't even use a tent, just a tiny tarp setup, but it was surprisingly comfortable. Warm showers is another great option where you can be hosted for free, but don't rely on it all of the time. Also, be sure to always leave no trace behind and be respectful towards nature, especially in national parks. This will also help your case if you are caught by police. Another option is to knock on people's doors and ask for a place to sleep. Although this may seem scary, you'll be surprised at how many people will agree to let you set up a tent in their garden or even sleep in a spare room, and this is a strategy I plan to use a lot in my next bigger bike tour. Next up is food. When biking for long distances, 40 plus miles per day, you need to eat at least 4,000 calories not to lose weight. However, this doesn't have to be expensive. By buying bulk foods such as rice or pasta and cheap seasonings from stores such as Lidl, you can spend as little as €5 per day. Carry a small stove to cook in the evenings at your camp, and oats, bread, meat and cheese work great for substantial meals at breakfast and lunch. In Europe, finding water will never be a problem, as you're always close by to a house to ask from or a local village water fountain, but I still recommend carrying a few liters of capacity, especially in summer. Finally, route planning. I like to use Komoot to plan my routes in advance, but I also like to be spontaneous and change plans on the go, so it's really up to your own style of travel. However, keep in mind that Google Maps is not the best option, especially in more rural areas of Europe where you can end up on tiny farm tracks, climbing fences. Personally, I find biking around 35 to 60 miles per day is the ideal range, as it allows you to travel long distances, but also have lots of time to explore and have adventures, making the trip more about exploring than endless biking, which is not my goal. At this rate, you only need to spend around 4 hours per day biking, leaving the rest for exploring cities, walking in national parks, or chilling by beaches or lakes. But in the end, it's up to you, and that's the best part about bikepacking, the freedom. You also may have to plan a little more in depth the further east in Europe you go, as biking infrastructure does diminish. I personally don't like long stretches of road, so I try and avoid them where possible to make the route more interesting, and to see as much of where I'm traveling as possible. In conclusion, bikepacking is the cheapest and best way to travel in my opinion, and as long as you are careful while camping, especially in dense nations such as the Netherlands, you'll have a great time. Bikepacking allows you to see, feel, and fully experience a country at a slower pace than driving, but faster than walking. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and support me on Patreon. Link in the description. Next summer, I plan to bike back across the whole of Europe, so stay tuned for that.